Okay, great. So we're going to resume our learning in Torah Vav. Last time I forgot to make these kashrus with Hashem. May it be with it, will Hashem, that I should always remember to make these kashrus, especially in learning Torah. Harinei mekasher atzmi v'atzmeinu b'li Torah zu. L'kol tzadikim ha'amatim kret shevarein l'kol tzadikim ha'amatim shel chnei afar kedoshim shevatzema prat Rabbeinu kadosh tzadik yisod olam nachal novei makor chochma Rabbeinu nachman ben fegin nanach nachmo nachroniyim as chusam yigin l'kol Yisrael. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so I believe we left off in section Gimel, and we were talking about. Actually, you know what? I realized that I decided to share these recordings on the Breslov Learning Center page, and I think it's kedai. It's worthwhile to let people know that I'm learning. I'm not a big rabbi. I'm not a big scholar. I don't know. There's a lot that I'm pretty ignorant, actually, Baruch Hashem. But I, as a healing practitioner, I had an experience of applying Torah 23 Tinyana, which I know you know about, and I'm just saying this for anybody who might be watching. That this experience came as a result of me applying what I saw Rabbi Nachman saying within the context of what I knew from my experience in healing. And came out with a result that showed me, that answered an old question that, like I said, like the healing work that I do brings about a sense of inner peace and tranquility and releases all sorts of old emotional energy, and the sense of peace, love, joy, and gratitude that I experience, that everybody experiences from this work. That anybody who goes more advanced it's called network spinal analysis, Dr. Donald Epstein's work. And every single person that goes through this work, that goes into more advanced work, experiences this sense of literally a deep level of peace, love, joy, gratitude, and awe, and literally the feeling of connection between all people. And it's quite amazing. But what bothered me is, Hashem, why are people not getting this when they're sitting and learning in the yeshiva? Why are they're not getting this when they're going to praying in a synagogue? It's not. I didn't see this type of experience with my brothers and sisters in the Jewish world. And when I came across this experience that I had from Rabbi Nachman's teaching in that way, that to me answered my question. Oh, because this is what you have to do in order to be able to experience that. So then I started developing a whole system of how to teach this. And every single person until now that I was merited to help them have this transformative experience where you transform the black bitterness of spirit hidden in the body into joy. Every single person came to the same conclusions about the nature of what Hashem is doing with this. And specifically it happened to be that at the same time, Hashem brought me to Torah Vav. At the same time I had this experience. It was what I learned in Torah Vav that helped me have the experience. So these ideas that I'm sharing in Torah Vav, I've seen elements. Rav Nassan says things that seem that he's saying what I'm talking about, but it's not a clear message in Torah Vav, although it fits, and the whole idea fits together like a beautiful puzzle when I apply this in all the teachings. And again, we're going to go back to the initial statement of Rabbi Nachman that each of us needs to learn to minimize our own kavod and maximize God's kavod, or what he calls kavod makom. And I was midayek, I was meticulous on the translation of each of these types of kavod that Rabbi Nachman says in one place. He said kavod makom, honor of place; kavod Hashem, honor of Hashem; kavod Elokim, honor of Elokim; kavod Malachim, honor of kings. And that there seems to be a different quality in each of these ideas. So the idea of kavod makom and my experience with this transformation led me to the question, well, why would Hashem want that? Why Rabbi Nachman says it's a higher level to literally chase after the Marish Korah and pull it into the Simcha until it transforms? Why is experiencing embarrassment a necessary thing that Hashem wants us to do? And it led me to the conclusion that, oh, we're here to go through constriction so that we can appreciate eternal expansion. That's what that idea answered up many of the things that bothered me as a person who grew up with in a Western American background. That and a lot of people have with trouble with Judaism, the stereotypical Jewish suffering, right? Like, why is it? What does King David say? Like happy is the person that Hashem afflicts, and the one Hashem loves, He afflicts. And why are we taught that the main way to be a Ben Torah is to distance ourselves from the pleasures of this world? And why do we have to go through a Gehenna? When I came to the understanding that, oh, in order to be able to appreciate something, you have to have experienced its opposite. Yet, in order to appreciate something, you have to have gone through its lack. So if Hashem wants to give us good, and that's the way what we say that is the goal of this entire world, is that Hashem wanted to give good, and a lot of people get stuck in that and say, wait a minute, good? This world is difficult. Most people go through terrible things and then maybe a few moments of good. No, not this world. Eternity. Eternal infinite good. And how are we going to appreciate eternal infinite good? Only if we go through almost eternal, almost infinite bad. And like everybody's going to go, because the world's like, no, I don't want that. I want pleasure. The non-Jewish world taught us that the goal of this world is pleasure. In America, the Constitution says the
pursuit of happiness.
Right, pursuit of happiness. As if happiness is something you have to go out to find and pursue it. It's not. Happiness is not a pursuit, it's a state of being. And happiness is the default when everything else is out of the way. But this world is a world of constriction. This world is a world of lies, and this world is a world of going through different types of painful experiences for the sake so that we can, as a whole, as humanity, if we take all of the cumulative suffering of all of humanity, all the years, and if we're all one humanity, and we all have a collective memory of all the different suffering that every single person has gone through for their entire life, through billions of people, through thousands of years, then you get an amount of suffering that gives the opportunity to appreciate infinite, eternal pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that was the conclusions I drew from this idea, and that experience and those conclusions have colored the way I'm learning Torah Vav. And so people who might be listening to this, it's important to understand that I'm really learning. I mean, there are things that I come across still, even though I've been going with Torah Vav for many years. And I'm still trying to grasp how to understand the language of the Rebbe and the commentaries that the Rebbe Nachman's main students have. And so far, I haven't seen anything that tells me that I'm wrong in my ideas here. There's one point that I think is important that I need to work on, and I think that anybody who grows up in the West needs to work on. And that's Rebbe Nachman says the main thing is simplicity. So it could be that this type of thing that what I'm talking about can get too complex, like this idea of holding Kvod HaMakom, this idea watching Hashem create this me right now in this space, right? That's kind of like, that's my understanding of a goal, that when we say Marbe B'Kvod HaMakom, we're trying to get to the awareness of Hashem's, that each moment Hashem's creating brand new, and there's a wow about that. Like we were talking about just before, the idea of that you said, like that does Hashem care whether I make this shot in basketball or not? Like, is that really part of the orchestration of Hashem? Is it that until that little tiny thing? And the answer is, we said is yes and no. It's always a paradox. Within this physical world, we'd say no, because that's a Gemara. Our sages say that it's that they're small, tiny, little insignificant things Hashem doesn't have providence on. But at the same time, we say on the bigger picture and the side of the paradox where everything is Hashem, like that's the Shema Yisrael. We said we Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu. That's one side of the paradox. Hashem Elokeinu, there's Hashem, and there's Elokim, which means nature, and there's our God, which means I exist and I have a God. But on the other side, it's Hashem Echad. Everything's just Hashem's projection. We talked about if you have a movie, I'm just switching the views here. I just realized this whole thing is recording both of our pictures. Your picture big consistently for some reason. I'm supposed to be a talking view. Anyway, if a person in the big picture of Hashem Echad, if you have a movie that's projecting, a movie projector, and the light goes off, the movie stops. So it's got to be that on the side of where Hashem's projecting His will, that this world continues to exist. If Hashem decided to stop projecting His will that this world would exist, it would vanish.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, you have to say that on that level, even whether you make the basket or not is part of the tapestry of the amazingness of the creation. And we talked about the purpose of this is not to get into like details about trying to figure everything out with our intellect, but rather a simple appreciation of, wow, you mean all this fits together perfectly? You mean even that little tiny detail somehow fits together in an amazing tapestry that if I could really see what was going on, the pleasure, the bliss of that would be so great that I could not maintain a physicality. And I believe that's part, for Rebbe Nachman says many statements that indicate this is what he wants us to have. He says when we get up in the morning, you should have in mind, a person should have in mind the world to come. And the understanding that a lot of people think, oh, the world to come means I'm eventually going to die and I'm going to have to give an accounting in a heavenly judgment. That's true, but that's traditional. The world to come is a world of bliss. Yeah. So Rabbi Nachman says you want to hold that awareness of that there's a world of bliss. And he also says not everybody can do this. But that is one of the things, we talked about last time. I mentioned Torah 33, where he says, when you see that everything is Hashem, even evil, and the evil falls away, and there's a tosefet or an additional light. And I feel like I merited to experience this when I was in a situation we were talking about last time that I invited you to go into court and sit there and watch Hashem orchestrating everything, even if you don't necessarily see it, just believe in it. And believe that it's a wow. Just see that everything really is Hashem, and especially in a place where very people are ever doing that, like a court or a governmental office where people are generally filled with fears and anxieties. So when I went into such an office and I sat there watching Hashem, the whole place starts glowing, like Rabbi Nachman says, a tosefet or literally. And I'm not any big tzaddik that I should be able to experience this. But Rebbe Nachman says, through following my advice and my teachings, I can make a person into a tzaddik like me, literally, mamish. So this experience, and Rebbe Nachman talks about tasting the Hungarian wine. And I think that it seems to me that we're talking about, and Rebbe Nachman talks about the heart. He's talking about having an experiential relationship with Hashem in the heart. So when he talks about the Hungarian wine, and he talks about knowing Hashem, that it's in the heart. The heart is an experiential. He wants us to have a heart experience of our lives.
Just wonder, you know how yesterday in section Bet, we learned about how Rabbeinu says you should make the left side of your heart like a halal.
Yes, right.
I'm just curious. Is there ever any place where Rabbeinu talks about like a halal in the brain?
I don't think so, but he does talk about throwing away your brain, throwing away your mind, throwing away what you think.
Yeah.
I had a very night when I was first learning these ideas, I said something that when sometimes you'll say something that when you hear yourself say that's really good. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Right?
Yeah, I've been ego too.
So I was talking with a friend who was constantly giving me his opinion about politics and really overly so attached to his opinion about politics And I just got, I was like, I had reached like a limit of where I just couldn't hear another word from him. And I said, brother, forgive me, but I really don't care about what you think. I don't even care what I think. So that, like, that's what, I don't care what I think. I care what Rabbi Nachman tells me to think. What and there are people who grew up in the West, like I've had somebody tell me, a person very close to me, no, you can't say that. God gave you a brain and you're supposed to use it. Yes and no. God gave us a brain, but we also have to realize God gave us a brain that's really broken and warped, and what we've been fed by living in the exile as to what we're supposed to believe and how we're supposed to think of the world according to the Western culture is filled with falsehood. It's filled with, so we have to throw that away. We have to, like, really willing to just throw away what we think, what we believe, and be open to receiving godly wisdom. That's the story of the clever son and the simple son, right? That was for me, that was a very, very helpful story in the beginning of my process of coming close to Rabbi Nachman. Like, you realize that, no, you don't have, in the West, we're taught you have to be smart. In the West, it's taught that you're supposed to figure things out. You're supposed to be a philosopher. You're supposed to figure things out. You're supposed to be the smartest one in the class, whatever it is. And then it comes along Rabbi Nachman and says, no, you're going to get in trouble with that. You get stuck with that. Be a simple person and let Hashem give you whatever wisdom he wants to give you. Don't try to figure things out. Just be simple and happy with your life. And if Hashem wants you to be wise, he'll give you wisdom. So that's where all of these ideas are coming from. And so, so there can be people who might see this, who know, who have been more advanced in their training with Rabbi Nachman than I am, and more knowledgeable in the sources. And so if there's something that they take exception to, I hope and I want somebody to come and criticize what I'm saying, because that's how we learn. But up till now, again, so I had this experience, and I deeply wanted, because this experience was so helpful to me and has been so helpful to everybody else that I was merited to show it, that I want so much, I hope and I pray that Hashem will allow me to share this, because it's so cool, and it seems to be real, and it seems to fit everything I've seen in Rabbi Nachman. So that's why, where I'm coming from, how do I come off giving over Torah like this? Rabbi Nachman says it's very dangerous to give over Torah in public. I have a friend who admonishes me about what I'm doing all the time, and I prayed about it, and I said, well, it seems to me that I'm supposed to keep doing this, but we'll see. I mean, I hope, please Hashem, show us all your truth. I don't care. I don't want my truth. I don't want his truth. I only want your truth. Okay, with that long introduction, let's go back into our learning. So we're talking about the idea of honor, of sitting silent to Hashem and acknowledging it's Hashem that's the creator of the experience, sitting in there in the busha, a person who sinned, and that we have to do tshuva on the tshuva rishona. We have to do tshuva on our initial. The first tshuva is I sinned. The second tshuva is, oh, it's Hashem who you brought me to do that. You're the one who gave me this experience. I thought it was me, and it was all you. And the embarrassment I'm sitting here feeling, that's you creating embarrassment. And we talked about last time the idea of zoveach todah. You asked me the question, what's this idea of honoring Hashem through the Thanksgiving offering, zoveach todah. And we said that it's actually about the acknowledgement, the admitting. When a vidui, when we do the vidui, when we say with our lips what we did, that brings about the embarrassment. Right? You asked also the question about the libo richak mimeni. He distanced his heart from me. What the Rebbe is saying is he wants us to bring our heart close to Hashem, to feel the feelings, to feel the embarrassment. And this, again, is showing, he says that's the main point of tshuva, is to sit and feel embarrassment. because it is that feeling that gives us the ability to appreciate eternal non-embarrassment, eternal, like to appreciate the greatness, the exaltedness of our souls, the honor of our souls. If we don't go through the feeling of embarrassment, that pain, we can't appreciate the opposite of it. Right? Okay with that?
Yep.
And he says that so I'll just start a little bit before we left, where we left off in the paragraph. We're in the middle of section Gimel.
Yep.
And which is what you asked about. My heart is an empty place inside of me, which is the aspect of Dom Lashem, the aspect of being silent to Hashem, which is the aspect of Ekia, the place where everything is unified. I will be, which is Keser, which is the crown, the place that surrounds the wisdom, and the place of Kavod, which is like Kavod is acknowledging that it's all Hashem. And he says, Umitvadeh alav, he acknowledges, he does a vidui, he does a confession, that he confesses about his tshuva. He confesses, oh my gosh, I thought I was doing tshuva, I'm embarrassed. I didn't realize it was all you, Hashem. I thought it was all about me, I'm embarrassed. Okay? And he says, when we do that, we honor Hashem in two worlds, this world and in the world to come. Because we're recognizing that, oh, Hashem is orchestra. I'm doing tshuva to shift my behavior and the way I am so that it be according to Hashem's will. And I'm also recognizing that it is Hashem who's creating this whole human experience, and the fact that I have a soul and all of these ingredients that normally I get caught up in my own ego, and I don't notice. This is our sages said in Gemara Pesachim, or Yikarut Vikipaon. In the verse from Zechariah, there's a precious light that's frozen. And the sages say, the Chazal said, or Shehu Yakar Be'olam Hazeh, a light that is precious and valuable in this world, Yekafui V'kal Le'olam Haba, will be like frozen and insignificant in the world to come. Nimtza Be'olam Haba, Keshiyizku Lahasaga Yisera Be'elokuso, V'vadai Yischartu V'yasu Tshuva Al Hasaga Olam Hazeh. That when we get to the world to come and we realize the awesomeness of godliness, then when a person has that awareness, then they're going to regret how relatively physicality I perceived godliness in this world.
That's interesting, though. Would that suggest? Wait, so Olam Haba. Wait, sorry. Are we talking, when we say Olam Haba, are we talking about the place a soul goes upon death of the body? Or are we talking about once a person has done this tshuva?
No, I think he's talking about the world to come, that when the soul is divested from the body and we see godliness with clarity.
So that's interesting. A soul, even upon leaving the physical body, would still have that emotion of charata?
That's a good question. That's a question I've wondered about. But it seems like, look, we know that in Gehenna, there's a Gehenna, there's a transition period where the soul goes through the pain. We're taught that we actually continue to feel the pain of the decomposition of the body. That's part, again, that kind of like, well, that seems so cruel. Well, not if we're understanding that Hashem is giving us a whole experience so that we can appreciate eternal good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much pain does one have to go to appreciate infinite pleasure? And so, it's got to stay interesting. Like eternity can't be boring.
No, that would be.
It'd be boring. It'd be terrible. that wouldn't be eternal good if it's boring,
No, it would not be.
right? So who knows what it really means, but it seems like on certainly from our limited level, we can appreciate that, oh, there has to be a lot of contrast in order to be able to appreciate all the details of forever.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if we take into account that the idea of being one humanity with a collective consciousness, that anybody these days, anybody who's a little bit advanced in their awareness talks about this, that there's a collective humanity and a collective consciousness, and that's true, and it's going to be the entire experience of humanity as Adam, as one person, that's going to give us all of the billions and billions of details to appreciate eternity in all of its glorious manifestations.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I know for me, that really made it a lot easier to be at peace with how difficult this world is and how much evil there is in this world. Because there's a lot of people, really good people that have big hearts that can't handle it. That's why a lot of people don't believe in God, God forbid, because they really are full of very big-hearted people that can't fathom how could it be a good God would allow so much evil.
Definitely a hard one.
Right? But if I think of this in terms of, oh, this is my father giving me a crazy ride. Now, some people, like, there are children who are very frightened of roller coaster rides, and there are other children who are not. I was one of the children who was frightened of roller coaster rides. And I realized that what's the difference is how the child grows up. Do they grow up in a supportive, loving environment, or do they grow up with parents that can be violent sometimes? Not necessarily, to the point of terrible child abuse, but obviously that's even more so. But even a child who grows up with loving parents who go off the deep end sometimes and are violent, even screaming. So that child might not, have inner fears like uptightness, like I don't want to provoke my parents into, going off the deep end. So there's fears there, and that type of child might be afraid. So too, if that person would have trouble, the idea of like, what do you mean God's giving us a virtual reality ride that's like a roller coaster ride in this world with all the pain and everything is a ride? That's terrible. No. If you trusted your parent and you trusted their loving ways and you knew that they were only taking care of you, and if something hurt, they were there for you and they said, yes, I know it hurts and that's okay. If you weren't afraid of the pain because you trusted your parent, then if your parent gave you a ride and said, listen, it's going to be scary and it's going to be tough, but you're going to see it's going to be great and I'm there for you. And even when you're really scared, that's part of the ride. And that person goes, oh, okay. Right?
Right.
So I think that's a good way to relate to this world. It's like, this is a ride. It's a serious ride. Part of the ride is the experience of having significance. Part of the ride is experiencing responsibility. Because the soul has no responsibility. How are you going to appreciate no responsibility until you went through the experience of responsibility? Also,
Correct.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, I'm listening. So
Also, there's many experiences of when we take responsibility and we push through and we achieve, that is a unique experience in this world that we can't have, that a soul by itself would never be able to have. So there's all these amazing things that we go through in this world that are part of beautiful, amazing experiences that Hashem wants us to have, that we can only go through by going through the constriction and the pain and the difficulty of this world. You know what? I think
Right.
it might be. Keep hearing a feedback. Maybe you turn your volume down a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Should have taken care of this an hour ago, or half an hour ago. All right, so that's the idea. Or shehu yakar b'olam hazeh, a light that's precious in this world will be frozen and insignificant in the world to come. Nimsa b'olam haba k'sheyizku l'hasag yiser belukuso b'vadai yischartu v'yasu tshuva l'hasag b'olam hazeh yisagas olam hazeh b'chinas geshem neged l'hasagas olam haba. Because the appreciation, the awareness that we have of Hashem in this world, you can say the spirituality we have in this world, compared to the spirituality of the next world, is like physicality. And that's so then when we realize that, we're honoring Hashem in two worlds. He says we're even, as if honoring him in two worlds. Because the first tshuva is the slaughtering of the Yetzer Hara, which happens by maintaining our silence in the face of the insult and the embarrassment. And the silence is to Hashem, watching, getting in touch with, oh, it's Hashem, that you're the one who's creating this experience. And that's how we slaughter our Yetzer Hara, by making it about Hashem and not about me. Yeah. And then after that we say that, and that's kavod olam hazeh, that's giving kavod of Hashem in this world. Vavidui al dvichas hayetzer hainu tshuva shniya. And then we say, and Hashem, you know what? I acknowledge that I thought that I was doing tshuva. I thought I'm being silent. I thought that I'm slaughtering my Yetzer Hara. No, it was all you. And I'm really embarrassed that I thought so. I perceived you in such a crude way. So that's the tshuva l'mabach.
What's the crude perception? That
I thought that I didn't perceive it was. I perceived that I was returning to you. What I didn't perceive is that you were giving me the experience of perceiving that I'm returning to you.
So that's what Rabbeinu is contemplating, that recognition in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is embarrassing for. I mean, but isn't if somebody feels embarrassed, they're still sitting in the wrong place, right?
No. That's the point. Is that he's saying embarrassment is a good thing to feel.
But why would I feel embarrassed if I recognized that there was no me? You know what I mean? I have to feel embarrassed.
Right, but even that place, once I've gotten there, then I have to realize that that getting there is also Hashem creating me having that experience and that awareness.
So it's almost like you're saying you go through the cycle and you become aware of Hashem, and then you recognize that awareness was brought about by Hashem, and you recognize the awareness of that was brought about Hashem.
Exactly.
It's like the last thing left of, I mean, I guess I'd phrase it like the ego is a feeling of embarrassment. Is that sort of
yes.
stuff?
Yes.
Then how do you, when you're at that last little bit of quote unquote selfhood and its embarrassment, how do you get from there to Ein Shum Yeush?
Well, wait a minute. Ein Shum Yeush. Yeush is not. We're not. Yeush is totally different.
What's Yeush? Shame.
Yeush is despair.
Despair. Okay.
You're confusing Yeush with Busha.
Yeah, right. I did. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
So that's very different. Then a Yeush is where a person's just, there's no hope, and I'm never going to be able to. It's all ego based. I'm never going to be able to do anything.
Got it. Okay.
So the kavod. So when we do this, that first time we gave kavod to Hashem becomes like a not so like, wow, I'm giving kavod to Hashem. Wait a minute, even that is Hashem giving me the experience. That's a higher level than that. And the first now I understand that first experience was a physical was a compared to this level a higher level of spirituality. That first level of spirituality was comparatively physicality. And that's what it says. Kavod rishon nase kafui v'kal neged kavod sheni. V'zeh shomer Kadosh Baruch Hu, and this is what Hashem said in that David HaMelech brought down in Psalms. Eila asisi v'chrashti. Now we're going to talk about. He's going to talk about that Hashem also is silent. He said this is now in contradistinction, because we know if we were on the level that like our ancestors used to be, where you knew all the words of Torah just like like the palm of your hand, and everything was there, then you would know. But wait a minute, Hashem also is silent. What is that all about? And that's what he's saying. He's going to address. This is our sages said. I'm sorry. This is the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, "Eila asisa v'charashti." This you did, and I was silent. Dimisa heyos ekye kamocha. You were silent in the thought that I was going to be like you. And what is he saying? What does that mean? He says here, Ki adam al yedei shemachrish na'aseh b'chinas ekya. When the person is silent, he becomes in that place of ekya, I will be. In other words, I don't exist. I'm not, it's all Hashem. Aval HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ma shemachrish l'adam b'Hashem, when a person sins, when a person's an evildoer, and Hashem doesn't, like we see all the time, we see people who are evildoers don't get their comeuppance. That's like Hashem's being silent to that person. That person's insulting Hashem by his evil in the world. And Hashem's not doing anything about it. He's as if like he's accepting the bizayon, and he's being silent. So you might think that Hashem is doing the same thing. Right? But he says, that's not because of Hashem being silent for the sake of I will be, God forbid. There's that idea of I will be is not pertinent to Hashem at all. Rather what? His silence to the evildoer in this world is so that they will receive their punishment in the world to come. That there, in that place, a person has all his wrongdoings put in front of him, and he gets all of his admonishment and his comeuppance right in front of him. I will reprove you and arrange it before your eyes. Because in this world, if a person gets punished, okay, so they go through it. It's not such a person can okay, I'll go through it. I'll deal with my punishment. But in the world to come, there's no escape. Here, you can kind of find a way to an escape. Here, there's a buffering in this world. So Hashem says, no, that evildoer, I'm going to not give him any opportunity to lessen his experience of his punishment, of his comeuppance. Good. Should we go on a little bit more, or is that enough for now?
Sorry, no, you mind just a brief summary of that last bit again? Just want to make sure.
You're talking about where Hashem's being silent?
Yeah.
Okay. So you might have, we know that there's a verse in Psalms that says Hashem is silent. You did this and I was silent. And we might have thought, is that silence also Hashem being silent to himself, as it were, for the sake of Ekia? Is it? No. But Hashem's silence is a totally different thing. Hashem's silence is only so that the person will get his full punishment without any distraction in the world to come.
In other words, let them ride high now, and then, or they'll ride high now, and the full punishment will come in the world to come.
That's right, and that's why there's a statement from Chazal, from the sages, that says a person who doesn't go through suffering in this world should be concerned. If you haven't gone through some sort of suffering in 30 days, you should be concerned. So that means that's telling us that when we go through our embarrassments, when we go through something it's not going according to the way we want it, which is the bizayon, that's good. It means that Hashem's paying attention. He's not being silent to us.
Bizayon is the struggle or the irritation.
Bizayon is insult.
Insult.
Right. We said before. We talked about that Kvod Melachim is honor of kings, is when a person's going after the kavod. In other words, like a king, it's an insult to the king to make him uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we are Bnei Melachim. We are the princes. So any discomfort that comes our way really is an insult.
Right.
So you'd think that, well, this world for a Jew, for a prince, it should be that we don't go through. Why are we going through so much suffering in this world?
Right.
And now we're learning. No, that's good. That means Hashem's paying attention. We're here to go through these things.
Yeah.
So you might have thought, what about evildoers? Hashem's being silent to them too. I mean, the fact that Hashem's being silent to them, maybe that's not because of giving. Maybe Hashem doesn't care. Maybe he's just accepting his. When the evildoer is doing evil, it's an insult to Hashem. So you might have thought, well, maybe Hashem is doing this too. He's being silent in the insult.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Nachman is saying, no, that doesn't have any pertinence to Hashem whatsoever. Being silent. His silence is only so that the evildoer will get his full dose of punishment in the eternal world.
So that was just a little tangent, that paragraph.
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I think it could be more than that. It could be that when a way to understand that when we're getting our bizayon in this world, that's good. You might have thought, well, I sinned, God forbid. Why isn't Hashem being silent? He should be silent to himself and absorb the insult. And he said, no, that's not Hashem, that's us.
Got it.
Okay. So is that good, or should we go on a little bit further? Would you like?
Whatever you want. I guess this is a good place to stop, just because we're up to Dalet now.
Right, and Dalet is a short section. That's why I'm inviting the possibility going on. But I think we did a lot. That's good.
All right, great, Holy Brother. So I'm not available tomorrow, but maybe we can continue next week.
B'simcha, this is great. I love learning with you, and I appreciate you very much.
Too,
okay, Achi.
All right, have a wonderful Shabbos.
You too. Good Shabbos. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.